Okay, so let's get started. A few quick words about Holini and our background and experiences as well. So Holini is a Google Ads and analytics agency specialized in working with B2B tech companies. And this specialization combined with having only senior specialists in our team has enabled us to work on more like in-depth B2B specific strategies for some really cool companies. And we usually work with B2B companies who are looking to optimize and scale up their Google Ads efforts, including high growth companies from A round to all the way up to unicorns, like Brief here, for example, who reached unicorn status a little while ago. We're also really honored to be a Google Premier partner and a part of multiple invite-only exclusive Google programs accessible to a select few top agencies in any region. And this gives us access to some additional resources, insights, and support from Google. But enough about us. Let's start talking about you and your accounts and try to use the following time here today to help you find some cost efficiency gains from Google Ads. So we're going to start off by explaining the background behind some of the key aspects of bidding and budgeting. And by the end of today's workshop, we will have reached a specific strategy for you to make some hopefully pretty substantial optimizations in how your budget is being spent. So we could say that less of it is spent or wasted and rather call it invested to bring you results in the most cost-efficient way possible. So budgeting and bidding setups with the cost efficiency angle is what we'll be focusing on today. Also, again, please don't hesitate to use the chat function and ask questions. I'll go through them at the end and try to answer them all to the best of my abilities. That's it. Let's get into it. And this is optional, but you can also do a live check in your account and kind of follow along if you'd like. But as mentioned, you will get the recording afterwards as well. So if you want to do a live check or refer back to this presentation later on, the thing I want you to kind of open up is first navigate to the campaign level report and modify your report columns. And then find the section for competitive metrics and select the following three metrics that we will be kind of mainly focusing on today. So those are search impression share, search lost impression share by rank, and search lost impression share by budget. If anyone wants to do some kind of a drinking game, I'm sure it's evening somewhere, then the words you want to be taking shots for are whenever I say search impression share. I will be saying a lot of that today. It's definitely a tongue twister. I trained in advance a little bit. Let's see how it goes. So just to ensure we're all on the same page here, let's go through the definitions of these metrics and discuss what it is exactly that they are also telling us. So search impression share shows us the impressions that you've received on the search network divided by the estimated number of impressions that you were eligible to receive. So very, very few of us, or very few accounts in the world, I guess, are showing their ads on every single search that would be relevant for them. So it's always a proportion of out of the searches that we could have shown our ads for. This eligibility is based on your current ads targeting settings, approval statuses, budgets, bids, and quality. So a lot of stuff goes into it. And keeping in mind, impression share data is updated daily. So impression share would be a good way to understand whether your ads might reach more people if you increase your bid or budget or ads quality or any of those things mentioned. Impression share can be less, and usually is less than 100% due to one or both of two reasons. So first of them being search lost impression share by rank, which shows you how often your ad didn't show on the search network due to poor ad rank in the auction. So ad rank determines your ad position and whether your ad is able to show. It's calculated using your bid, ad, and website quality, context of the search, ad rank thresholds, and the expected impact of extensions and other ad formats. So we are okay with having search lost impression share by rank, as that is the whole point of using smart bidding. That in a smart way, we are purposefully not showing our ads in all auctions, because not all searchers are converters, and some that are converters will be too expensive for us to capture given our profitability goals, so our CPA or return on ad spend targets. So with search lost impression share by rank, the decision of which auctions to not show our ads for is made based on signals about if the auction will help us reach the goals and targets that we have set for the bidding. Or if it will not help, then we will lose out on those auctions due to rank, and our search impression share will be lower. But the third metric, or the second metric influencing whether or not your ad is shown, is search lost impression share by budget, which indicates how often your ad didn't show on the search network due to not having enough budget. Now, key aspect for today's workshop, it's important to understand here that this means that for a portion, the percentage you're seeing in the search lost impression share by budget column, for this portion of auctions, your ads weren't shown. And what's key, this current selection of which auctions to not participate in happens so that some of the auctions that you're missing out on are auctions that would convert, and some will be non-converting. Your ads simply weren't shown because you didn't have enough budget to enter the auction in the first place, not because this set of auctions is low quality and irrelevant for you. And this kind of blind selection and missing out on some of those converting auctions is exactly what we'd like to avoid. And this is the core idea of the strategy that we're discussing today. So just a side note that when analyzing these search impression share metrics, it makes sense to look at a rather short and recent time frame. For example, last 7 days or even less, and excluding yesterday's data, as each day's search impression share metrics data is populated late in the evening on the next day. So there's quite a long delay for the data to be kind of finalized in the reports that you see in the interface. Otherwise, you might look at averages of a longer period of time, and they might be quite far from the current state that you want to be working with and optimizing based on. Or when analyzing changes over a longer period of time or fluctuations, it would make sense to look at the data on the kind of visual graph option in the account, displaying those daily fluctuations, so you could see what's happening. So here we can see on the slide quite large fluctuations, but if I looked at the average of this time period, which is a monthly period, I would see an average that doesn't really tell me much, to be honest. So next, it's important to note also that if you're using one of the maximizing bid strategies, so maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, it's normal and even expected to see at least some search lost by budget, even as high as 30 or 40%, what we've seen in our accounts. With these strategies, these like bid strategies, the way those algorithms are built is that Google invests your daily budget pretty much no matter what. The algorithm will try to maximize your conversions every day, yes, but this also means that it will bid rather aggressively at times to ensure that no budget would be left over, because saving budget was never given as input to be the goal for this bid strategy. So with these bid strategies, it is common to see some search lost by budget, as the algorithm will be rather kind of, let's say, safe than sorry when ensuring that the budget will be fully invested. In other words, investing the daily budget has just been written in as a default goal with these bid strategies. Now, however, when using target CPA or target ROAS bidding, we should and can aim to not have search lost by budget by finding an optimal bid strategy target for the current budget. So an optimal target CPA or target ROAS. And we'll be getting more into detail about this very shortly. This is also kind of the core idea of today's strategy that we're discussing. So to summarize again, why would we want to minimize the search lost impression share by budget metric? Pretty much from a Google Ads technical standpoint, let's call it, this would be to eliminate the random exclusion of auctions. From a, let's call it a business or marketing optimization perspective, you'd want to minimize search lost impression share by budget to either scale up your results with the same CPA or ROAS as you're currently reaching by increasing your budgets and keeping the CPA or ROAS targets the same, or oftentimes, if more budget isn't available, then getting more results for the same budget. So more conversions or more conversion value, depending on what you're after. Keeping the budget the same, but either decreasing your CPA target or increasing your ROAS target, forcing Google to bring you more conversions or conversion value. So key base theory for today's workshop, because if we see that there is, for example, a 20% search lost impression share by budget, then this means that we didn't even enter into this 20% of auctions. We were cut off before even getting our kind of foot in the door. And behind that door, some searchers are likely to be irrelevant, non-converting. Some would probably be potentially converting, and some are perhaps potentially converting searchers, but too expensive for us to capture them. So essentially, there is more conversions or value to be captured within the current targeting that we are using. And those, let's say, likely converters who would fit within our goals are who we are after. Because those potential converters are there behind that door, we didn't get into due to not having enough budget, we have room to tighten the bidding goals we have given to Google. As we'd rather have the chance to, let's say, take a look behind that door, peek in, and decide if we'd like to capture those extra conversions that are left there or not. So if some of them are too expensive to fit within our goals, we will not bid on them and lose out on those impressions due to rank. So essentially our bid being too low to capture them. But in this case, we at least made that assessment if and who is worth going after. And in the case of those auctions that we miss out on due to budget and we're left behind that, let's say, fictitious door, we would have no clue what's going on behind that door in that auction room. So again, with search lost impression share by rank, we decide in which cases we want to step inside through that auction door. But with search lost impression share by budget, we are simply left behind the door before even seeing what's happening in there or behind that door. So next logical question would be how to then minimize search lost impression share by budget and take a peek behind that hidden room with potential extra conversions. So the first and of course most obvious option would be to increase budget because you are getting the signal that you are missing out on some extra conversions or value due to too low budget. Essentially scaling budgets and campaigns at a current CPA or ROAS level. So in an ideal world, you will have set the CPA or ROAS targets for your bid strategy in a way that investing your Google Ads budget is profitable for you. So you set the CPA or ROAS target at a level that makes sense for your business to pretty much, let's say, scale infinitely. If it's profitable, who doesn't want more profits? And then who wouldn't want to get more of those conversions or conversion value? But we fully realize we're not always operating in an ideal world. It can be tricky to set those CPA or ROAS targets, especially in a B2B setting where calculating those exact profitability levels can be quite tricky. And sometimes, no matter the results, no more budget is available. We fully understand that, and that is kind of what we work with on a daily basis at Holini as well. So let's say you don't have any more budget available, but you would still want to increase results. Who doesn't? So as search lost impression share by budget is essentially an indication that there's still potentially more conversions or value available out there, another option would be to tighten your bidding targets. So meaning decreasing CPA targets to get more conversions for a lower cost per conversion, or increasing return on ad spend targets for more conversion value per every invested euro, dollar, whatever currency you're working with, to try to capture a few more conversions from the auctions and conversions that were previously behind that closed auction room door that we were left behind due to not having enough budget to even peek in. So essentially, we're trying to fit more conversions or value within the same budget. And we're finding those extra conversions or value from behind that previously closed door. Now, what we'll be doing is trying to find the sweet spot of exactly how many conversions or how much value could be captured within the current budget that we're working with. Also keeping in mind that if we set our targets to something that is too hard to reach, like a CPA target of €1, who wouldn't love that, getting paying customers by investing €1 only? Sure, Google will try for a small moment, but as soon as it sees that those kind of goals are not reachable, will cut down on the budget invested and impressions you'd get. So yes, maybe you would get very, very few conversions that are very, very profitable, but that's often not what makes the business happy either. If results are, yes, very profitable, but volumes are small. So we're kind of working with figuring out the sweet spot between profitability and volumes. So what we usually do is start changing those bidding targets with very small increments, let's say by 5 to 10%, and then see how impression shares react and take it slow and steady. Also considering that the auction landscape is ever changing, with demand fluctuating, competitors shuffling their budgets and strategies, making these TCPA and TROAS adjustments is really an ongoing thing that should be monitored and done regularly, because the sweet spot can and usually will be constantly changing as well. So unfortunately, today's strategy is not a kind of set it once and be happy for years kind of a thing. You do have to kind of keep monitoring and working on it. Now, an example with some actual numbers to help illustrate the process and gains. Apologies for my poor graphic design skills. I do not claim to be a good graphic designer at all. My talents lie elsewhere. But I hope this helps get the point across. So let's say this image here represents the current state of one campaign in your account. And to ease the explanations a bit, let's say you're using target CPA bidding. Your current CPA target is €10. Your daily budget is 90. And with this setup from this campaign, you're getting an average of 9 conversions per day. Keeping in mind that some conversions will cost you more than €10, some less, but they average out to an average CPA of 10. So the green box is the conversions you're currently capturing from the impressions that you're currently getting. So these are the 9 conversions totaling to €90 spent and an average CPA of 10. Light red are the conversions you are not capturing as they are too expensive to fit within the CPA target you set. So this is the search lost impression share by rank portion of auctions. And the darker, more intense red are the conversions you're missing out on due to search lost impression share by budget. And as discussed, if you're seeing search lost impression share by budget in your campaign, this indicates that there's potentially more conversions to be captured. As we were previously simply cut off from a random selection of auctions due to not having enough budget to even enter the auctions. Second word for a drinking game, coffee, shots, whatever you want, could be auctions for sure. Now, considering that the selection was done pretty much randomly, then probability theory indicates that some of the impressions that we're missing out on due to this search lost impression share by budget would be from converting users, some from non-converting users. And some of those conversion CPAs would fit within our CPA goal, some wouldn't. So let's get to optimizing. See what we can do here. Seeing that we have search lost impression share by budget in the account for this campaign, we will lower our CPA target from the previous 10 euro target to 9 euros. Budget remains the same. Everything else for now remains the same. So what happens, and what is illustrated here, is that, for example, this 15 euro conversion that we previously could capture while still staying within our CPA target of 10 would now make us go over the target. We would no longer be able to reach the average of our goal that currently now is 9 euros. So we will lose out on this conversion due to rank. And the necessary bid for capturing this conversion would be too high now. But we still have a daily budget of 90 euros. We set free 15 euros of our budget, which enables us, the bid algorithms, to take a peek at more auctions that we previously would have missed due to budget deficiency. So from the previously missed conversions, we are able to get to cheaper conversions to replace the previous one conversion that cost us 15 euros. And for the same budget, 90 euros, we have now captured 10 conversions instead of the previous 9, simply by lowering our CPA target and decreasing the search lost impression share by budget metric. So now we capture the 7 euro and 8 euro conversions instead of one 15 euro conversion. But as we can see, there is still search lost impression share budget left, and one 5 euro conversion there that could be captured when decreasing the target CPA even further. And in this case, we would get rid of search lost impression share by budget entirely, and the other 20 euro conversion would move under search lost impression share by rank. So essentially, we're working towards getting rid of search lost impression share by budget with small increments to not kind of mess up the algorithms learning and everything too drastically, especially in a B2B setting where data is rather scarce. So whenever making any changes and there is very little data and those new learnings come in a lot slower, we do need to be mindful about the kind of aggressiveness of any changes that we make. Even if you initially see a search lost impression share by budget of, let's say, 60%, then we would still recommend not going too hard and kind of decreasing your CPA target by 50% immediately or something like that. So slow and steady. So the potential gains that you can get, as a general rule, we at Holini have seen that the potential cost efficiency gains you could get from getting rid of search lost impression share by budget equal around 1/3 up to 50% of the numeric value of search lost impression share by budget. So for example, if you see a 40% search lost impression share by budget, then by tightening your bidding targets and getting rid of that search lost impression share by budget, you can potentially improve your campaign's cost efficiency by approximately 20%. This is not written in any Google support materials. This is what we have seen from using this strategy for years already, and that's the results that we have seen pretty consistently. Now, to aid in optimizing towards minimizing search lost impression share by budget, we have set up alerts in our accounts via automated rules that would notify us of any fluctuations. So this way we don't miss optimization opportunities, especially if you're handling things in-house and the person handling Google Ads also handles other channels and everything. They might not check the account on a daily basis. So kind of automating these notifications would be helpful. So you can do that by going under tools and settings and then rules. And here's an example of the setup of such a rule. So the action being set to send an email and then setting the conditions accordingly to include campaigns that are enabled with a search lost impression share of more than 5% within campaigns using relevant bid strategy types. And again, reminder, setting the frequency to run to daily but I have purposefully set it to run late in the evening because we're taking into account the data delay. Yesterday's data will be final by 11 p.m. the next day. And by looking at 3 days instead of 1 day, we're not acting too quickly on single day spikes, because whatever like competitor might be doing something crazy or something may have even just kind of, let's say, broken in their account, we don't want to be too hasty either. We want to keep an eye on these changes. So what we usually use is kind of like a window of 3 days. And the threshold of 5% is set because, like, if your search lost impression share fluctuates between like 0, 3%, 1%, 5, 0 again, then that's kind of common. You can try to be super granular and get some extra gains out of there if your budgets and volumes are super large. But in general, we kind of consider anything up to 5% to be okay. Anything over 5%, we want to be notified of and start acting on because we see that that's where we can kind of realistically start optimizing results. Now, the main idea behind the discussed strategy, albeit a bit simplified, is that we want to widen the pool of auctions from which we can pick and choose which conversions to capture to stay within our CPA or ROAS goals. Taking the same idea a bit further, there are a few more ways to get further cost efficiency gains from an account, again, without major, huge rebuilds and kind of redoing the entire thing. One of them being utilizing portfolio bid strategies, a huge favorite of ours in Holini. So this means just consolidating bidding across multiple campaigns. So in cases where the goals for campaigns are the same, but it's needed for some reason to keep the campaigns separate for, I don't know, locations, languages, targeting, stuff like that, the settings that you can kind of differentiate with campaign level settings. You can keep the campaigns as separate campaigns, but by using a portfolio bid strategy, you can add all relevant campaigns under one strategy. And what will happen is that Google will have a wider pool of different costing conversions to choose from to maximize your results, again, within your given budget. So, small thing to note that portfolio bid strategies are only available for target CPA, target ROAS, maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, maximize clicks, and target impression share bid strategies. So let's look at a hypothetical visual example here. The two light blue circles symbolize two separate campaigns. One is a campaign consisting of competitor keywords, and the other campaign houses general keywords relating to your product or service. And both of these campaigns target CPAs are 17 euros. And right now, the CPA target has been set on campaign level, so for each campaign separately. So when having a CPA target of 17, that means that some portion of the conversions captured will cost less than 17 euros. Some will be really quite a lot cheaper than the target, and some will cost more than the target of 17. But this is okay, as together, combined, they still average out to be 17. And your campaigns are delivering you conversions within the target of 17 that you've set on a campaign level. Some conversions will be too expensive to fit into the mix. So those are the ones I kind of left out of those circles. We are not capturing them. We can't capture them because otherwise the average CPA of the campaign would already exceed 17. But this is where we can notice an issue, or, well, better to call it potential for improvement. In the general keywords campaign, some of the conversions that we are capturing cost us 40 euros and even 50 euros. But in the competitors campaign, we're not capturing 50 euro and not even the 40 euro conversions. So here's the question. Why would we want to pay 50 euros in one campaign if we're not capturing 40 euro conversions in another campaign? It would make sense to maximize the cheapest available conversions first, and only then start paying more for each extra conversion. So the potential for optimizing lies in consolidating these two campaigns under one portfolio bid strategy. And the campaigns can still operate as separate campaigns in other aspects and settings, but the bidding is what would be consolidated. So it would be happening across these two campaigns with a mutual CPA target of 17. And by consolidating the bidding, we would first capture all available 40 euro conversions, excluding the conversions that cost us 50 euros, if there's enough 40 euro conversions available, meaning that we can get more conversions for the same budget, just by consolidating bidding, even keeping the targets the same. So just a side note again, that the effects of portfolio bidding can be even more drastic when initially campaigns have varying CPA or ROAS targets. In some cases, varying targets make sense, of course. For example, brand campaigns always have different setups, different targets than your generic campaigns. But quite often when auditing accounts and later also discussing with the in-house people, we've understood that there has really been no need for some campaigns to have varying targets. It's just what happens kind of as you go along and optimize, and sometimes go by the recommendations that Google gives you. So campaigns end up having quite differing targets when in actual fact they are and should be working towards maximizing results for the account as a whole. So then when consolidating those varying target campaigns, which in actual fact would have a unified same goal, consolidating those under one portfolio bid strategy and a unified CPA or ROAS target, that's when we have seen results really improve. So for example, if you have one campaign where the target is CPA 40 euros and a different campaign which has maybe targets similar keywords but in a different geographic location and different language, has a CPA target of 70 euros, but in actual fact you just want to maximize conversions no matter where they come from, it would make sense to pull those perhaps together under one bidding, if keeping some things in mind, of course, regarding different aspects of cultural differences in very different locations and all that. But in general, often these kind of consolidations can improve results and just help you get more from a wider pool of available options to pick and choose those cheaper conversions from. So, confession, I initially titled this slide "Little Extra Benefit," but when I shared these slides with Carolina, our Google Ads team lead, for feedbacking, she said that this is not a little benefit, it's an amazing one. And to be honest, I do agree with her. So this is what we shall call it, an amazing extra benefit of using portfolio bid strategies. So normally, when using smart bidding, we don't have any control over the specific actual bids that Google algorithms set in auctions. We only have control over the targets we give it, if using target CPA or target ROAS bidding. And then it's up to Google to bid however it feels fit to reach those targets. But in some cases, especially so in a B2B, there is not vast amounts of data available, but data is what these algorithms' decisions are based on. So it's good to kind of guide the algorithms as much as possible, especially at the start of a campaign when there is little or no data and the algorithms are still learning. So one way, oh, sorry, I have these slides are kind of, yeah, okay, we're in the right place. Sorry, a little confusion happening here. So one way to use our human brains and let's call it common sense a bit to help Google's algorithms and aid them at the moment where they don't have too much data to base their decisions on, is to set some limits for Google by setting maximum bid limits. And this can be only done when you use portfolio bid strategies. Noting here that portfolio bid strategies can be used for single campaigns as well, meaning that even if you don't want to consolidate multiple campaigns bidding into one, it's still good to use a portfolio bid strategy for a single campaign, because that's the only way to set these maximum bid limits. And you'll get a nice view of top signals that are affecting performance, like you can see an example on the screen here. And a performance history graph as well. And then here's an example of one of those. So you can see what your current target is, what was the average target during the period that you are analyzing, what was the actual ROAS or CPA that was reached, cost, conversion value, stuff like that. So the main, like the amazing extra benefit that I mentioned for portfolio bid strategies, so this maximum CPC limits, the setting itself is quite hidden. So when you open up a portfolio bid strategy, you should find this advanced options, little clickable link, click on it, and then you can set a maximum bid limit. Now, when setting a maximum bid limit, we do have to be realistic though. Of course, we'd all like to get all the clicks, good clicks for just a few pennies, but sadly, this wouldn't work. As it is the whole point of smart bidding to bid more on highly likely searchers and less on not so highly likely converters, we still have to give it freedom to make those bid decisions. We should just figure out what is our threshold for how much we think Google can predict conversion likelihood. So how much playroom do we want to give it in setting bids, higher in some cases, lower in some cases. So what I mean by that can be illustrated with the following example. Let's say our CPA target is 100 euros per conversion. The average conversion rate from this campaign has historically been around 10%. Amazing numbers to use for an example, but it's a fictitious example, so made it look nice for you guys. Do we believe that Google can predict if a search will bring us a conversion with 100% certainty? Probably not. So in that case, we definitely shouldn't allow Google to bid for any auction with the bid of 100 euros, because that would already kind of exceed our CPA, how much we're willing to pay per conversion. And there's no point in paying more for a click than what we'd be willing to pay per one conversion. Do we believe Google can predict, based on all the signals it has access to, that some auctions are 3 times more likely to bring a conversion? Maybe. If yes, then we could set our bid limit to be 30. So we kind of trust Google that in some cases, it will have enough data that it knows 3 times more likely than average that this person will convert. So it makes sense to bid really high to really go after them. Now, unfortunately, there is no black and white golden rule here that I could give you to establish what the exact, let's say, proportions should be here. It requires a bit of testing. And if you set the limit to be too tight, so too low, you'll start seeing that you're limited by rank, and you might not be investing your daily budget fully, and your kind of volumes will decrease. And I believe you will be kind of seeing a little notification in the account as well that your bid strategy is limited by bid limits or CPC limits, or there surely will be something red popping up at you in the account to let you know if the bid limit has been set too aggressively. Now, here's a screenshot to show how to see a summarized view of the search terms where the average CPC exceeded a specific level. So in this account, let's say you've determined that you don't believe you should be paying more than 20 euros per click. And then by filtering search terms by average CPC over 20, it will give you an indication of how much budget for the chosen period was spent on such very high CPC search terms. But again, not a perfect world, not a perfect strategy. We do have to keep in mind here that firstly, this is showing averages. So if the average CPC for a search term with, let's say, 4 clicks was around 35 euros, then in some of those auctions, we paid more than 35, God knows how much, and in some we paid less. And secondly, not all search terms are even shown in the search terms report. Depending on the account, quite a significant portion of search terms are hidden, and data about their average CPCs, like anything else about those, won't show up in this report and with this filtering either. So the actual spend on terms that cost a lot per click is very likely to be even higher. The kind of summarized cost number that you're seeing is, let's say, the minimum that you know that at least this much budget was spent on those very expensive clicks. So this is not an ideal overview, but it gives you some indication of the portion of your budget that was spent on searches that you've determined to be inefficiently expensive. Now, again, taking the same idea of widening the pool for Google's algorithms one more step further to enable the algorithms and portfolio bid strategies to do their job in the best, most optimal way possible, we could consider shared budgets. Now, they do a similar type of consolidation like portfolio bid strategies do for bidding, but shared budgets do, like the name says, for budgets. So you could have separate campaigns, but they could be using a joint budgets. You can find them under tools and settings, shared library, and then shared budgets. Now, again, various things to kind of keep in mind here and think through before going at this too hastily. Shared budgets make sense as an extra benefit when using maximize conversions and maximize conversion value bidding with like portfolio bid strategies as well, because then the algorithms can use the portfolio bidding and shared budgets set up to maximize conversions or value across all the included campaigns and like kind of pick and choose and capture the most affordable conversions first from whichever campaign they are currently available from, and not run out of budget for one campaign when more cheaper conversions could be captured from another one. So essentially avoiding being forced to spend another campaign's budget if that one doesn't currently have very cost-efficient conversions available. Because as we discussed at the start, when using these maximize bidding strategies, it's kind of written into the algorithms that the daily budget will be spent. So if you have it set on a campaign level, then it will be spent on every campaign every day. But maybe one of those campaigns doesn't have very efficient results available that day. So it would make sense to kind of allow Google to reallocate the budget a little bit, hopefully in a smart way. So consolidating bidding and budgets across max conversions or max conversion value bidding campaigns will help you maximize your conversions or value when using those bid strategies. But as we determined earlier today, if we want to optimize by minimizing search lost impression share by budget, we would use target CPA or target ROAS bidding with portfolio bid strategies to kind of use those as levers to find the sweet spot that we discussed. And when using those bid strategies, you don't necessarily need to be using shared budgets as you're adjusting your volumes with tightening or loosening the CPA or ROAS targets. And those campaigns shouldn't have limiting budgets anyway. So the whole point was to not be limited by budgets, rather be limited by the CPA or ROAS target that you have set. And with CPA or ROAS bidding, you want to enable the campaigns, the bid strategies to have enough budgets to optimize across different campaigns and different days. But you want to be controlling volumes by adjusting your targets, not your budgets. So with TCPA or TROAS bidding, keeping budgets on a single campaign level can actually be viewed as a bit of a safety measure to avoid any unpleasant surprises as well if something goes wrong. Because if many campaigns are pooled under one shared budget, then the shared daily budget can get quite big in some cases, and hence any accidental spend, if something goes wrong, can also be pretty substantial. So it's a little bit easier to control stuff by having budgets still on a campaign level if you're using portfolio bidding with TCPA or TROAS. But just keeping in mind that each campaign has a sufficient budget, so it's not limited by the budget amount. And with this, we are nearing the end of today's workshop. So let's just summarize once more what the key takeaways should be from our shared so far 48 minutes together here. Firstly, that seeing search lost impression share by budget metric indicates that there's room to lower your CPA or increase your target ROAS. So get more conversions or conversion value for the same budget. Or increase, if you're happy with your CPA or ROAS levels, they're profitable for your business, increasing your budget and getting more conversions or value for the same CPA or ROAS that you have set and are seeing at the moment. So depending on if you have additional budget available or not, and if your goal is rather cost efficiency or scaling, you can choose one of the two options. And secondly, layering this idea of optimizing to minimize search lost impression share by budget with portfolio bid strategies and optionally search budgets, shared budgets as well. You could improve your results even further. And that's it. The two main ideas to kind of remember from today. Before I take a look at any questions posted in the chat, I'd like to remind you that I'll be sending out today's recording early next week. You'll get the link to the email address that you provided when you registered. And I'll also post a link right now into the chat here for providing some quick feedback. So if you find time, I would really, really, really highly appreciate your thoughts. Only takes like maybe a minute, maybe two, on how all this was for you, and make our future workshops even better any way that I can. So I will be popping the link into the chat right now, and then I'll be going through any questions. So last chance, feedback form coming here. We have one question from Veiko so far. How much data this search lost impression share budget and rank are needed in account? For example, you have new account 3 months old. I would say that this data starts showing up immediately. I cannot put my head down for this because I haven't checked it in a super tiny small volume yesterday created new account. But because this is data about actual auctions, you should be seeing it straight away. How can we tackle search lost impression share budget in max clicks bid strategy? We could do a whole other long session on choosing bid strategies in general and what are the pros and cons of maximize clicks. But we are not entering that rabbit hole today. For now, I'm just going to say that the idea remains the same, that if you can see, it's inevitable, as I mentioned at the start, that if you're using maximizing bid strategies, so maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, or maximize clicks, it is inevitable that you will be seeing search lost impression share by budget, and you cannot realistically minimize it. If you use a portfolio bid strategy and you set bid limits, perhaps that way you can. I haven't done that myself, at least in the past couple of years, to be honest. If you'd like, I can ask my team members if they have any specific experience with this, but the general idea remains the same, that you want to be decreasing or making your targets more aggressive. So saying you are willing to bid less so that Google would kind of go and try and find the cheapest conversions, or in your case, clicks first. But maximize clicks can be a risky road. Okay, one more from Rohan. While setting up new account, what would be your personal thought? Should I start with manual bid strategies, then wait for some time to adopt into automated bid strategies, or directly go ahead with maximized conversions and bid strategies without CPA targets? This really, again, depends on the amount of data that you're starting to get in. I have seen both approaches. New account, manual bid. You could go manual, try and get some data in. In general, Google has stated in their support materials that their bid strategies are able to kind of get up and running from scratch as well, without any previous data available. So I guess here it would make sense to look at the situation a little bit wider, like what are the budgets you're starting with, how large are they, how much volumes are you expecting to see come in, how quickly could the bid strategy, the automated bid strategies, realistically start learning when initially they have zero data. So I mentioned here the concept of kind of aiding and guiding these algorithms with our human common sense. So one way being by setting these maximum bid limits and stuff like that. Also adding audiences, making sure audiences are added in your account. So Google could kind of learn based on those groupings, but at the start you might not have any kind of remarketing or customer lists audiences yet either. So I think it would make sense to kind of look at it from an individual situation standpoint. And unfortunately, I don't have a golden rule answer for you ready just yet. If you'd like to, I'd be happy to kind of discuss this separately by looking at a little bit more details about your business. Okay, do we have anything else from anyone that you would like to kind of discuss live? If not, then my email address, I believe it was on the slide as well at the end, I think so, lise@holini.com. So if you want to reach out, discuss any of this further, then please don't hesitate to do that. Also, again, super grateful for any feedback that you give, and the slides from today will be sent to you on at the start of next week, hopefully Monday. Now I've said that out loud. Now it has to be Monday, so you'll see them there. See them in your inbox then. Okay, if that's it, thank you guys as well. You were very nice listeners. I know I muted you myself, so I made you silent, but you listened very nicely. And thank you a lot for the nice thank you words here. And hopefully see you in our next webinars.